Here is the section draft. A single name stopped the storm inside the room. The rain still hammered against the windows, but nobody moved. The little girl's voice had been soft, almost innocent. Yet somehow, it hit harder than thunder. Grandma Hannah. For the first time that evening, Kong Min-jae looked shaken. The powerful billionaire slowly turned toward the photograph hanging above the fireplace. It showed his late mother smiling warmly beneath cherry blossoms. Very few people knew her name. Fewer still ever spoke it aloud. His eyes returned to the child. "How do you know that name?" he asked quietly. The girl looked toward her mother. "My mommy cries when she says it." A heavy silence filled the room. Amara's fingers tightened around her spoon. She had been calm since arriving at the estate, but now a shadow crossed her face. For a moment, she looked as if she wanted to stand up and leave immediately. Min-jae noticed. Across the table, Lena innocently continued eating, unaware of the storm she had created. The warm dining room suddenly felt much colder. Outside, lightning flashed across the dark sky. Amara finally forced a small smile. "Children remember strange things," she said gently. But Min-jae could hear something hidden beneath her words. Pain. Regret. Fear. He studied her carefully. There was something familiar about her eyes. Something he could not explain. Years of business had taught him when people were hiding the truth. And Amara was hiding something. Later that night, after Lena had fallen asleep in the guest house, Min-jae stood alone in his private study staring at his mother's photograph. Questions raced through his mind. Who was this woman? Why did she know his mother's name? And why did hearing it feel like reopening an old wound he had spent years trying to bury? Then his head butler quietly entered the room. "Sir," he said nervously. Min-jae looked up. The old man held a small leather bracelet that had fallen from Amara's bag. The billionaire froze. He recognized it immediately. It was the same handmade bracelet he had once given someone long ago. Someone he had never forgotten. Some memories refuse to die. No matter how many years pass, they wait silently in the dark, until one small moment brings them back to life. As Min-jae stared at the old bracelet, a forgotten chapter of his heart suddenly reopened. 10 years earlier, the young Korean businessman had arrived in Africa carrying grief he could not escape. His mother had died only months before, and nothing, not wealth, not success, not family prestige, could fill the emptiness inside him. During a humanitarian project in a small village, he met Amara. She was not rich. She did not have powerful connections. But she possessed something rare. Peace. Every morning, she helped children at the community center. Every evening, she cared for elderly villagers. She seemed to carry light even during difficult days. One afternoon, Min-jae watched her repairing a broken school bench. "You spend so much time helping others," he said. Amara smiled without looking up. "Money can build houses, Min-jae. But kindness builds people." For the first time since losing his mother, he felt understood. Days became weeks. They shared long walks through golden fields. They laughed over simple meals. They spoke about dreams, fears, and family. Slowly, love grew between them. But thousands of miles away, Min-jae's powerful father saw things differently. When photos of Amara reached Korea, his father was furious. "She is not part of our world," he warned during a cold phone call. "You barely know her," Min-jae replied. "No," his father said sharply. "You barely know what this relationship will cost you." Back in the present, Amara quietly watched Lena sleeping in the guest room. Years of struggle had left invisible scars. She had worked endless jobs, faced hunger, and protected her daughter through every storm. Yet she still kept one secret locked deep inside her heart. A secret connected to Min-jae. A secret she never planned to reveal. Meanwhile, in his study, Min-jae turned the bracelet over in his hands. Then he noticed something hidden inside the worn leather. Tiny engraved initials. His face slowly lost color. Because beside Amara's initials was a date. The exact day they were supposed to meet for the last time before he suddenly disappeared. The memory had returned, but so had a painful question. If Amara had kept the bracelet all these years, what really happened the day they were torn apart? Sometimes the heart recognizes something before the mind understands it. As the days passed, Min-jae found himself watching Lena more closely, disturbed by a feeling he could not explain and unable to ignore. The storm had long passed, but Amara and Lena remained at the estate. What was supposed to be one night slowly became 3 days. Then 4. To everyone's surprise, the grand mansion felt warmer with them there. Lena filled the quiet halls with laughter. She chased butterflies in the garden, asked endless questions, and somehow managed to make even the serious staff smile. Min-jae watched from a distance at first. Then little by little, he found himself joining her. One afternoon, they sat beside the estate pond feeding fish. Lena pointed excitedly at the water. "That one looks lonely." Min-jae smiled faintly. "Maybe it's waiting for someone." "Or maybe someone forgot it," Lena replied. The simple words hit him harder than she could know. Nearby, Amara watched silently. Seeing Min-jae laugh again awakened memories she had spent years burying. For a brief moment, it felt like the past had returned. But only for a moment. That evening during dinner, Lena looked at Min-jae thoughtfully. "I wish every father was kind." Min-jae froze. The room became painfully quiet. Amara immediately lowered her eyes. "Lena," she said gently. But the child continued innocently. "My friend's father left her. She cries about it." Min-jae glanced toward Amara. "Where is Lena's father?" The question hung heavily in the air. Amara's fingers tightened around her glass. "He's not part of our lives," she answered carefully. There was no anger in her voice. Only sadness. A sadness that felt practiced. Across the city, another pair of eyes had begun watching. Seo Jin-woo, a senior executive at Min-jae's company, had noticed the unusual attention his boss was giving the mysterious woman and child. Curious, and secretly jealous, he ordered a private investigate to dig into Amara's past. By midnight, the first report arrived. Seo opened the file confidently. Then his expression changed. Inside was an old photograph. A photograph of Amara standing beside a young Korean man years ago. Seo stared at the man's face. His heartbeat quickened. Because the man in the picture looked exactly like Kang Min-jae. The past did not return with answers. It returned with wounds. And sometimes a single lie, placed at the right moment, can destroy what years of love could never break. The next morning, Seo Jin-woo entered Min-jae's office carrying a thick folder. His expression was serious. "I wasn't sure if I should show you this," he said carefully. Min-jae looked up. Seo placed several documents on the desk. Marriage records. Legal papers. Old photographs. According to the file, Amara had been connected to another man years ago. Min-jae's jaw tightened as he flipped through the pages. Every photograph felt like a betrayal. Every document seemed to confirm the same story. She had moved on. She had built another life. And she had never told him. The pain he thought had healed suddenly returned stronger than ever. That evening, he asked Amara to meet him in the library. Rain tapped softly against the windows. The same sound that had welcomed her into his home. Now it felt like a warning. Min-jae placed the documents on the table. His voice was calm. Too calm. "You had a family. Why didn't you tell me?" Amara's face lost color. She looked down at the papers. Then back at him. 1,000 emotions flashed across her eyes. Shock. Hurt. Disbelief. Because the truth never got a chance to reach you. For a brief second, Min-jae almost believed her. Almost. But years of disappointment had built walls around his heart. Walls that were easier to trust than hope. I think it's best if you leave, he said quietly. The words cut deeper than anger ever could. Amara stood motionless. She wanted to explain. She wanted to fight. But after years of carrying pain alone, she no longer knew how to beg someone to believe her. So she simply nodded. Upstairs, Lena watched as suitcases were packed. Tears filled her eyes. Did I do something wrong? She whispered. Amara pulled her into a hug. No, my love. None of this is your fault. Outside the mansion. Leave, she reached into her bag and accidentally dropped a small envelope onto the floor. The wind pushed it open. Inside was an old hospital document. Min-jae's butler noticed the paper and picked it up. His eyes widened. Because printed across the top was a date. And beside it was a name. Kang Min-jae. The old butler stared at the document in shock. Whatever truth Amara had been hiding, it was far bigger than anyone had imagined. Some betrayals steal money. Some steal opportunities. But the cruelest betrayals steal years that can never be returned. As Min-jae opened the forgotten box, he had no idea he was about to discover who had truly destroyed his future. The old butler's discovery led to an unexpected visitor. The next morning, an elderly former employee of Min-jae's father arrived at the estate carrying a worn wooden box. His hands trembled. I should have come years ago, the old man said. Inside the box were dozens of unopened letters. Every envelope carried the same handwriting. Amara's. Min-jae felt his chest tighten. Slowly, he opened the first letter. Then another. And another. Each one told the same heartbreaking story. Amara had searched for him. Written to him. Waited for him. Believed he would answer. But no answer had ever come. His hands shook as he read her words. Asterisk, I don't know why you're silent, but I still believe in us. Asterisk. Another letter. Asterisk, maybe your family doesn't approve, but I won't stop hoping. Asterisk. Then another. Asterisk, please, Min-jae. I need to tell you something important. Asterisk. His vision blurred. Years of misunderstanding suddenly began collapsing around him. The old employee lowered his head. Your father ordered us to hide every letter. Min-jae stared at him in disbelief. What? The old man swallowed hard. She never abandoned you. Someone made sure you never found each other. The room fell silent. Then Min-jae opened the final envelope. A folded medical report slipped out. Behind it was a sonogram image. For a moment, he couldn't breathe. The date matched the months after he had left Africa. His eyes locked onto Amara's handwritten note. Asterisk, our baby is growing. I wish you were here to see this. Asterisk. The paper trembled in his hands. Everything he believed about her had been a lie. Everything. Outside, dark clouds gathered over the city once again. At that exact moment, Min-jae's phone rang. It was his private investigator. His voice sounded unusually serious. Sir. I finished reviewing Lena's records. Min-jae's heart pounded. What did you find? A long silence followed. Then came 6 words that changed everything. Sir, the dates match perfectly. The sonogram, the letters, the timeline, the bracelet, every piece was beginning to fit together. And for the first time, Min-jae was forced to ask the question he feared most. Was Lena his daughter? The truth did not arrive gently. It crashed into their lives like a storm, tearing apart every lie, every misunderstanding, and every wall built over 10 painful years. Min-jae found Amara in a small apartment on the edge of the city. She opened the door and froze. For a moment, neither spoke. Then he placed the box of letters on the table between them. Amara's eyes widened. She recognized them instantly. The letters she had written. The letters he was never supposed to see. I read everything, Min-jae said quietly. The strength in his voice was gone. Only regret remained. Years of pain suddenly poured out of Amara. I waited for you. Her voice trembled. I wrote. I called. I searched. Every time I thought I was close, another door closed. Tears filled her eyes, but she remained standing. Strong. Determined. You think I hid her from you? I spent years trying to find you. The room fell silent. Min-jae lowered his head. For the first time in years, the powerful billionaire looked broken. I failed both of you. The words barely escaped his lips. Then came the final confirmation. A DNA report arrived from the investigator. Min-jae opened it with shaking hands. His heart stopped. There was no doubt. No uncertainty. Lena was his daughter. His daughter. The little girl who laughed in his garden. The little girl who called his mother Grandma Hannah. Everything suddenly made sense. At that exact moment, another disaster was already unfolding. Across the city, Seo Jinwoo sat in his office watching news alerts spread across every major media platform. He had secretly leaked the story. Within hours, headlines exploded everywhere. Billionaire's hidden child revealed. Secret daughter scandal rocks business empire. Reporters rushed to find Amara. Camera crews surrounded her apartment building. Social media erupted. And worst of all, Lena saw the chaos. She looked out the window at the flashing cameras below. Then turned toward her mother. Mommy. Fear filled her small voice. Why are strangers calling me a secret? Outside, hundreds of reporters continued gathering. Inside, a frightened little girl waited for answers. And somewhere in the shadows, someone was preparing to use the scandal to destroy everything Min-jae loved. Sometimes love is not proven by staying. Sometimes it is proven by walking away. As Amara watched reporters surround her frightened daughter, she made a choice that would break her own heart to protect the child she loved most. The scandal grew worse every day. News vans parked outside the apartment. Strangers followed them through the streets. Lena could no longer play outside without cameras chasing her. One evening, Amara found her daughter sitting quietly by the window. Mommy, Lena asked softly, did I do something wrong? The question shattered something inside her. That night, after Lena fell asleep, Amara made her decision. She would leave. Not because of Min-jae's father. Not because of the money he had offered. But because her daughter deserved peace. With trembling hands, she wrote a goodbye letter. Every word felt like a wound. She thanked Min-jae for caring for Lena. She apologized for leaving. And she admitted one painful truth. A part of her had never stopped loving him. At dawn, she booked 2 tickets and headed for the airport. Hours later, Min-jae arrived at her empty apartment. The goodbye letter waited on the table. As he read it, panic rushed through him. No, he whispered. Without hesitation, he raced toward the airport. Meanwhile, another confrontation was unfolding. His father stood waiting near the departure terminal. For years, he had controlled every part of Min-jae's life. But not today. I did what I thought was necessary, his father said. I protected our family. Min-jae's eyes filled with anger and heartbreak. You destroyed a family. His father looked away. For the first time, guilt appeared on his face. I thought she would ruin your future. Min-jae stepped forward. His voice was calm, but every word carried years of pain. A legacy built on broken hearts is not a legacy worth protecting. The old man stood speechless. Across the terminal, an announcement echoed through the building. Final boarding call. Min-jae turned. Far in the distance, he spotted Amara holding Lena's hand as they walked toward the departure gate. His heart pounded. The distance between them was growing with every step. And he had only moments left to stop the woman he loved from disappearing forever. Amara reached the gate and handed over her boarding pass. Then her phone vibrated. A single message appeared on the screen. It was from Minjae. And what he wrote made her stop walking. Just before the boarding gate closed, one message stopped Amara in her tracks. Her hands trembled as she read it. Through years of silence, pain, and misunderstanding, Minjae had finally sent the words she had waited a decade to hear. Please don't leave. Let me be the father and man I should have been. Amara slowly turned. Across the crowded airport, Minjae was running toward her. For the first time, he was not protecting his reputation. He was fighting for his family. Breathless, he stopped in front of her. Passengers, reporters, and airport staff watched in silence. Minjae looked at Lena first. Then he knelt in front of her. His eyes filled with tears. Lena, he said softly, I am your father. The little girl stared at him. For a moment, nobody moved. Then she wrapped her arms around his neck. The airport seemed to disappear around them. Years of loss, loneliness, and unanswered questions finally found their answer. Minjae stood and turned toward Amara. I was too late for too many things, he said. But I don't want to be late anymore. Before the cameras and strangers, he bowed his head. Not as a billionaire. Not as a powerful businessman. As a man asking forgiveness. Amara's eyes filled with emotion. The hurt was still there. But so was the love. Nearby, Minjae's father watched quietly. The proud man who had spent years controlling everything finally broke down. I'm sorry, he whispered. I thought I was protecting my family. I never realized I was destroying it. Months later, life looked very different. Amara helped lead Minjae's charitable foundation, supporting families facing the same hardships she once endured. Lena filled their home with laughter. And slowly, the wounds of the past began to heal. One evening, rain softly touched the windows of their home, just like the night they first reunited. Standing together, they watched the storm outside. Minjae smiled. The greatest fortune I ever found wasn't in the family I almost lost. Amara squeezed his hand and smiled through tears. And sometimes the people meant for us find their way back, even after the longest storm. Because pride can separate hearts for years, but truth always finds its way home. And the storm that brought them together lasted only one night, but the family it restored would last forever.